With that, our first speaker is Robin Sherman.
Good evening, Mayor Bramson, members of the City Council. My name is Robin Sherman. I reside at 115 Stoneleah Place. I'm here today to express my support for the Echo Bay project, and I am not alone. I am submitting over 550 signatures compiled over the last 8 days in support of the project. The City Council needs to know that a small but vocal opposition does not speak for all the residents of New Rochelle. Many of my neighbors strongly support this project and want it to go forward. These include community leaders, civic leaders, and neighborhood association presidents. We have been debating and arguing over this project for years. It is time to approve it. The facts are simple. It will bring in new tax revenue to the city. It will create a new waterfront park. It will clean up a toxic brownfield, and it will bring more development to the area. It will also bring new stores and restaurants. New Rochelle is notorious for losing projects that could make this city better and give us a bigger and better, bolder tax base. Let's not lose this project too. So once again, I ask the City Council not just to listen to a small but very vocal group. They do not speak for all of New Rochelle. We want this project approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sherman.
And I have signatures and petitions here.
You may provide them to the clerk, and these will be circulated to the council. I do note that there are a number of people in the audience who have signs. You are quite welcome to display them. I'd ask you to do so in a way which is courteous to those sitting behind you, though. If you put them in your laps, they will be quite visible to everyone on the dais, but you won't block anyone else's view. So with that, and I'm going to do actually what I customarily do when we have lots of speakers. I'm going to call speakers up in batches of 3. And if you could make your way to the front area of the room so that we can move in an efficient fashion. Our next 3 speakers are Robert Cox, James O'Toole, and Robert McCaffrey.
My name is Robert Cox. I live at 34 Aberfoyle Road. I have some remarks I wanted to, I'm sorry, I moved, thank you. I've moved to 173 Mountjoy Place, which I seem to keep forgetting. That's probably why I don't often make it home at night. So I was going to say something, but I just want to address this idea of petitions. As readers of Talk of the Sound know, Forest City had the representatives down at the train station collecting petitions from pretty much anybody they could pester as they walk by trying to get on a train. So while I haven't seen who's on this 500 name petition, if it has anything to do with the Forest City representatives going to collect petitions at the train station, then I'd have to believe that they're not worth the paper that they're printed on. But I'll reserve judgment. And I'll reserve judgment until I see them. You know, I would just say that you know, the mayor has often adopted the attitude that somehow the people who show up and speak out about Echo Bay aren't really representative of New Rochelle, and that his vision and his agenda for New Rochelle is actually reflective of the will of the people of New Rochelle. You know, not to rub salt in a wound, but the fact is, Mr. Mayor, you presented your vision for Westchester County to the voters recently, and it was soundly rejected. Just for those who don't know, in the county, the mayor lost by 12 points, 56-44, in a county that's 2-1 Democrat. So a 12-point loss to Republican in a county like that is a significant defeat. In New Rochelle, just 2 years ago, the mayor ran and won election by 58 points. But in this recent election, won only by 6. So I would just ask the mayor to consider what's changed in the past couple of years where his lead shrank from 58 points to 6. And I would propose that while there are a number of things that are different, the main thing that's different actually is Echo Bay. That opposition to this project has coalesced into something that is one of the most broad-based oppositions to any initiative in the city in many, many years. It's not, as the mayor would have it, Tea Party Republicans or conservatives or cave people or people who are just too dumb to understand what's not good for what's best for them. It's north and south and east and west, Republican, Democrat, independent, non-registered, apartment dwellers, homeowners, business owners. There's a broad consensus, despite Forest City's fabricated AstroTurf petition, that this project is really not the best use for the space, and I hope that the mayor will reconsider his position and listen to the people. Thank you.
Mr. O'Toole.
Good evening, James O'Toole, 230 North Avenue, this city. I watched with great concern today the council meeting that happened this afternoon and this evening, and I applaud Mr. Tarantino for trying to table this thing till January. We have much more important issues in this city that our budget coming up, other things that are happening in this city to be concerned about this failed project of Echo Bay. Now, Mr. Mayor, you said heads don't count. But I'd like to see the people that are here against Echo Bay stand up here tonight, and let's see how many heads count, Mr. Mayor. And I think this is a pretty full room to tell you, Mr. Mayor, that heads do count. Remember that.
I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
No, I'm not done. I've still got another 2 minutes and 12 seconds, and I'm gladly going to use them. Like I said, this project is a failed project. There is nothing good about it. The residents of New Rochelle do not want it, no matter what Forest City has paid you, given out candies down at the train station, saying, can you sign my little petition? Here's a lollipop for doing it. It ain't fair. We didn't go around doing this stuff. It's not fair. Listen to the people of New Rochelle, because we are the people that put you into office. And if you don't remember, just a week ago, people spoke loud and clearly. We want change, and change we are going to get in this city, Mr. Mayor. You didn't almost win New Rochelle. People are looking. People want answers, and you're the man to give them. We don't want Echo Bay. We never wanted Echo Bay. This is a failed project. Listen to us. This is what we want. We do not want Echo Bay. And everybody in this room and thousands of people that are listening at home and watching on TV are saying the same thing. We don't want it. So get rid of it. Table it like Mr. Tarantino said. Don't try to say, I've never seen this in a council meeting in my life. A reconsider vote? What was that? I've never seen that done in a council meeting in my life. A reconsider vote? Who thought of that one? That's a new one. I can't wait till the next time there's a 4-2 vote back there and Mr. Tarantino or Mr. Trangucci say, excuse me, can we reconsider this vote for 20 minutes? I've never heard of that. I mean, to tell you the honest truth, I think that's like bullying. I think you were trying to bully the 4 people that were on that council that voted against this. That's what I think you were trying to do. It's not fair to the residents, and it's not fair to people that spoke their mind back there and said this should be tabled for a while. Let's put smart heads together and do the right thing. Say no to Echo Bay. It's not a good project. Say goodbye to Forest City and say hello to a new New Rochelle. Thank you.
Mr. McCaffrey.
Robert McCaffrey, 157 Mountjoy Place. Good evening, Council. It's not political. By turning down the Forest City Echo Bay project, this would free up Echo Bay, opening up an opportunity for the city of New Rochelle to develop a proper waterfront plan that integrates all of its waterfront assets into an integrative and professional plan. This would allow development department staff, the city manager, the city council, and the people of New Rochelle to come up with a long-term plan, one with realistic outcomes which permits a proper RFP, RFI concept and results in a true plan with a vision for the future of New Rochelle. Look at what's outside. Look on those walls. Look at the images and designs created by an RFA process, what it can produce. Use this process for the Forest City project area. I call it the Forest City project area because it seems like they already own it. If there is a real interest in sustainability in the city of New Rochelle, the city of New Rochelle should see the Armory as a perfect example of how it can be restored using modern technology. It has been proven in other communities. It's Time to show that we have leaders with ideas and a willingness to support other creative ideas and developers. There should be a joint effort to build a state-of-the-art city yard where it currently stands. All the property that was purchased by New Rochelle in the Beechwood Avenue area can be developed into affordable housing. The city yard can be covered by a new development of green space while integrating an area into a sports entertainment community next to where the Armory is developed, becoming the cultural center of a multi-purpose hub themed around the basic waterfront history of the Armory, the history of New Rochelle, and the diversity of New Rochelle. Be creative. Secure funding and grants wherever possible. It's been shown to be possible if people get involved at the city, county, state, and federal levels. Use an approach that serves all of New Rochelle for the purpose of building a community resource base, reducing property taxes via by its drawing power and increasing businesses in the downtown. It strengthens proper planning of a waterfront project. This will assuredly lead to funding by government and private investors as the New Rochelle Opera. Create a plan that complements the 1996 Comprehensive Plan and provide our veterans with real service and support, not politics. A plan for all of New Rochelle. Common sense for the common good. And I support all of you for what some of you have done tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCaffrey. Our next speakers are Michael Williams, Peter Luciano, and Greg Johnston.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Town Council, and thank you for the opportunity to speak here tonight. My name is Peter Luciano. I've been a resident in New Rochelle for about 15 years. I live at 50 Davenport Avenue. I am also a boat owner, and I keep my boat in the New Rochelle Municipal Marina. I have, over the past 10 years, experienced a threefold increase in the cost to keep my boat in the city of New Rochelle Municipal Marina. In addition to that, the town council have seen fit to substantially reduce, if not eliminate, the differential between a resident and a non-resident who keeps their boat in the town marina. I have visited other town marinas, and all of the other town marinas have a substantial differential between residents and non-residents. I came to New Rochelle because of the harbor. I bought a cooperative within walking distance of the marina to keep my boat there. When I first came here, I paid, give or take a penny, about $3,000 a year to keep my boat there. I'm now pushing $8,000 to keep my boat there. That's a substantial increase. This year, because of the pricing structure that you've placed upon the marina, I would say approximately 50 of the larger boats have opted to go someplace else. You're no longer competitive. If this continues, the marina isn't going to be the cash cow that it's been for the past couple of years. Your revenue is going to diminish. Might I suggest that a better source of money would be to think about what we've already got in New Rochelle. Instead of taking money and throwing it into an Echo Bay, which nobody wants, put some money into the refurbishing of the marina. The marina's got substantial property. It's got substantial space that's not being appropriately used. The marina shares the space with other municipality, the sewer department, the garbage department, they're all there. I would suggest that the marina should be a self-sufficient organization. It should also make a contribution to the town, but you can't continue to milk it. It's running dry. I would say that someone coming to this town looks at the marina and says, this is a good place to live, I could keep my boats there. People talk about Veterans Day, and I'm not sure of my exact numbers, but I'd venture a guess that give or take a penny, 50% of the boat owners in the New Rochelle Municipal Marina are either ex-policemen, ex-firemen, or ex-soldiers like myself. So all I'm asking you is look at what you're doing. You're throwing people away. They're going other places. Along with that, they'll move as well. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Luciano. Mr. Williams.
Yes, Michael Williams, I'm unfortunately a former New Rochelian, but I lived here all my life. Reasons I had to leave is because of personal reasons, but I've come here from Long Island to let you know that New Rochelle is still where I live in my heart, and I will not let this town fall apart any more than it has over the years. What you and your predecessors have done to this town, have you not learned from your mistakes with New Rock Center? What has it done for New Rochelle? Has it brought any monies into New Rochelle? No. Has it Avalon's? Now, another one has been sold, I just understood. And now the monies that they should have had for taxes are now somehow not going to happen to New Rochelle. New owners. How is this possible? All I can tell you now is that I live in New Rochelle by heart, but I will not let this town go down the tubes any more than it has. And don't cash that check anytime soon, because it will bounce.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Mr. Johnston.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, City Council. My name is Greg Johnston. I live at 196 Hamilton Avenue, and I'm here today to discuss Echo Bay. I'm just a taxpayer. I'm nonpartisan. I don't represent any agenda. I saw the proposals that you all saw many years ago from very qualified developers. Those were plans and proposals that were exciting. They were vibrant. They were based on economic revitalization, based on bringing, taking a beautiful waterfront area, bringing retail, bringing a place where residents alike and from other cities can come and spend their money. What we got is something very different, right? This is citizens to be heard. And I know that several of you have made up your minds. And what we ask of our elected officials is that you think and you compromise and you put the partisan rhetoric away, you put all the other things away, but you look at this from the interest of a New Rochelle taxpayer. We've been paying taxes for developments that have failed. We're building more and more rental units. We're building more and more unsustainable, basically rental units. This is not the right move. I think we need to take a step back. We need to do something there. I agree with that. But the way this was transformed from what it was initially and all those beautiful plans that you all saw, I feel like as elected officials, when those plans changed, you turned away. Some of you recognize this. And I tell you, I talk to a lot of people. I'm a member of the community. There are many, many that feel this way. So what we ask is that you look at this from our vantage point. We'd like to be proud of our city. We remember those open boulevards down to the water with 250,000 square foot for cafes, for restaurants, for a vibrant waterfront community. And I'm afraid this is our last chance. So by going ahead with this project and not taking a step back and looking at it, right, I think you're going to do a lot of harm to this city. I've been here for 20 years, and I'm just telling you the way I see it. And I think as elected officials, you need to have a dialogue, and you need to hear us, and you need to do something about this, because the way it stands is just not acceptable. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Johnston. Our next three speakers are Ralph Lucarelli, Vince Malfitano, and Peter Parenti.
Mr. Mayor, council people, my name is Ralph Lucarelli. I live on White Oak Street. Many people here have expressed my feelings on this Echo Bay project, and I'm going to quote an adage that was made many, many years ago and quoted by people much smarter than I am. The adage is, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I'm going to show you my picture. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Malfitano.
Good evening. Vince Malfitano, 9 Fairview Place. I've lived in town about 32 years as a single guy. I looked on a map where to buy a house and start a family. I saved up my money for a down payment. New Rochelle looked good. On the water, near the city, near White Plains, near Long Island. I drove around town and I got a little spot for myself. I don't know, maybe about 6 months, a year later, somebody opened up a topless bar down the street. That got me started in public advocacy. I wanted not only for myself, but my neighbors, I wanted to save my life savings as a single man, working 2 full-time jobs and going to school all day on Saturday. I wasn't going to let somebody come in and destroy my investment. Which brings me here tonight, after 30-some years. I've watched this Echo Bay thing going along for many years now, and I've been puzzled that something, as others said, started out so grandiose and seemed wonderful in some ways, but really wasn't, because it disrespected our veterans. We were willing to give away the armory, which is given to this town for $1, as long as we maintained it for public use. And the prior mayor and yourself and others have let it to go to pot. It's a disgrace what happened with that place. I couldn't understand it. I don't get it. I wouldn't let my house wind up like that. I don't know why you did. Anyway, people like the vets came up with some nice ideas for that armory, and I was puzzled by why they were constantly turned away by you and people who follow you. I didn't get it. I went to some of the meetings over at the American Legion. I'm listening to them, Mr. Parenti, Mr. Tochi, and others, and they made a lot of sense. I come here a lot to listen and to speak, and I became very troubled to learn that contributions were made to yourself by this Ratner organization. They constantly get extensions. They constantly change their plan. Who's doing the leading here? Are we leading them or are they leading us? We're supposed to be the city telling them what we want, but it seems like at every turn, our council and whoever's, yes, oh, you need a, oh, yes, okay, we'll change it again, yes. What's going on here? What kind of planning is that? Now, you folks that are sitting up there that are supposedly public officials, ask yourself, what are you doing there? Why are you really sitting in that chair? Who do you really represent? Well, I tell you, there was a little referendum in Westchester recently, and I suggest that some of you who think you're safe in your office because somebody else put you there, you better think twice, because you have an angry electorate out here who's going to watch how you vote. And some of you know what that means. You're going to have a militant organization seeking to take away your lifetime health insurance because you ain't been there 5 years yet. So just think about that, okay, when you decide what to do for the best interests of the people of the city. It's game time, people. Ask yourself, who am I?
Thank you, Mr. Malfitano. Mr. Parenti.
Good evening. My name is Peter Parenti. I reside at 95 Brookside Place in New Rochelle, New York, and I'm the president of the United Veterans Memorial and Patriotic Association. And I'd like to say kudos to Mr. Tarantino and Ms. Rackman and Mr. Hayden and Mr. Trangucci for their vote this afternoon. It's nice to see. It's nice to see independent thinking, and hopefully we can get a few other people to follow your lead. So congratulations. I wanted to also pass along something that I read from an independent group that is nonpartisan, and probably they didn't even know New Rochelle until they started to do an investigation on Forest City. It's called the Cause of Action. And amongst other people that they've been investigating with Forest City and other places and things that they've done, Forest City Ratner at the Atlantic City Yard promised to create 10,000 permanent jobs and 2,250 units of affordable housing in exchange for $270 million in direct taxpayer money to build its sports arena and the land provided to it through eminent domain. To date, none of the affordable housing has been built, and only 2,000 jobs have been created, 1,900 of which are part-time jobs. So let's fast forward to New Rochelle. Forest City Ratner Group has promised the city of New Rochelle and its Echo Bay project will create about 59 permanent jobs Everyone counts, but 59. There's not a lot to be given $20 million away. 59 permanent jobs and increased local tax revenue. However, Forest City seeks a $20 million tax abatement from 2016 to 2035, despite the fact that the residents have been facing a property tax increases and cuts to their public services, which by Mr. Bramson's new budget will be getting a lot more of the same, a lot of the same shaft. Okay, the Forest City executives in Cleveland gave New Rochelle Mayor Noam Bramson $5,000 in campaign contributions in August of 2007 after Forest City was selected, after it was selected as a developer of the Echo Bay project in December of 2006. Mayor Bramson has received $17,500 in campaign contributions from Forest City since last December. Who's the poster boy?
Not correct.
It is correct. I'm sorry, it's on your website. It's in the files of the Board of Elections. You're not supposed to be responding. It's my turn to speak. So sit down. For everybody else, Mr. Bramson is a sinking ship. I would jump off right now.
Thank you, Mr. Parenti. I would just point out those filings are indeed public, and I welcome anyone to take a look at them. Our next three speakers are Ron Tochi, Barbara, I believe the last name is Stevenson, and James Murphy. Mr. Tochi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Is this thing on?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I know that you don't want to sit here tonight and listen because there's not too many comments that are really complimentary to the actions of our council in the last year or so. I understand the frustration, and I certainly understand the need for revenue in this city. Besides the recession, we are paying for the failed fiscal policies of the last decades, and there's enough blame to go around to both Democrats and Republicans. So I don't want to get into that in detail. At the same time, you've heard it all. I mean, there are arguments that have been made, and there are arguments that will be made as opposition to this project, and most of those facts are really irrefutable. This is not a project that is with the public sentiment, as evidenced by the last referendum on Tuesday, Election Day. If you look at the results around where the project is proposed to be, you'll find that it really was the premier issue that caused a lot of consternation for a lot of people. I would suggest to you, from my experiences, I've had thousands of votes in my career representing both county and state, and I have always found that a project that's going to be successful really necessitates the public opinion. They have to be supportive. Otherwise, it's not going to be the success that you want it to be. We have tried for many, many years now to make you understand that we want something that we all can be proud of and something that we truly believe would be an asset and an economic benefit to the community. We believe that this particular project is in the wrong place, it's at the wrong time, and instead of housing, what we're looking for is retail, shopping areas, and recreational areas where they'll generate revenue. So I would hope that now, after this vote today, there would be a calm, and certainly everybody would regroup and say, let's do what the people want for once. I'm convinced that if you just listen to all the good ideas that are out there, we'll come up with something that everybody will truly be supportive, and you won't have this consternation at these meetings. But for the sake of this city, it's time that we start to listen and take action and do what the people want us to do. They don't want this project. And unless it's a question of faith and morals, where you feel so strongly you can't vote for something, it's better to err on the side of the public than on your own personal opinion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Tochi. Ms. Stevenson?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Barbara Stevenson.
Could you approach the microphone? It's hard to hear you.
This one?
You
Yeah.
can actually tilt it towards yourself if that's easier.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it should bend. There you go.
Barbara Stevenson. I'm a member of the New Rochelle Opera Board, and I'm here to support the Veterans Memorial Center for Art and the Performing Arts. And my colleague will speak a little bit longer than I am going to speak, but I am here to support the veterans. And I did a little research. And I have a question for the council and the audience. To emphasize the gift of our servicemen and women, I'd like to ask if anyone knows the complete number of men and women who have served the nation since its establishment pre-1775 to the present. Anyone want to volunteer a number? Take a guess. Very good. Close. 40 million service people. And it would be a crown in the, as New Rochelle is known as the Queen of the Sound, this would be the, a jewel, a crown, a jewel in that crown for the Queen. If you have a performing arts center dedicated or working with and for the veterans, because they keep our nation free. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is Mr. Murphy present?
Good evening, Council. James Murphy, 126 Church Street, New Rochelle. Letter from Anita Lowy, Congress of the United States, dated February 3rd, 1999. Honorable Timothy C. Idoni, Mayor, City of New Rochelle. Dear Tim, I am writing on behalf of Mr. Carmine Saraceno, Commander of the VFW Post Number 439, regarding the conversion of the former New York State Naval Militia Armory into a memorial community center. According to Mr. Saraceno, he has met with you and City Manager Peter Korn to discuss his proposal. As commander of the VFW post, Mr. Saraceno is interested in having the armory converted into a meeting center for veterans and civic organizations. To date, Mr. Saraceno has not received any decision regarding his proposal and is anxious to know if any determinations have been made. I would appreciate your giving Mr. Saraceno's request for a memorial community center every appropriate consideration and advising me of its status. Please send all correspondence to my White Plains office. Sincerely, Nita M. Lowy, Member of Congress. Mayor Bramson, during his present tenure and during his time as a councilman under an earlier Democrat mayor, has done everything possible to impede the ongoing efforts and proposals of the veterans to restore the Naval Militia Armory and present their expertly executed plans. Even recently, it might be noted, when the veterans groups presented their recent plans for an arts and community center in council chambers, Mr. Brampton and all his fellow Democrats on council were absent, and only the two Republican members of council were present. To further illustrate the genuine scorn Mr. Brampton has for the historical significance of the only naval militia armory ever constructed in the state of New York, some years ago, he made an attempt to abrogate the deed of transfer of the armory through a home rule initiative through the state legislature, which failed. His administration and the previous Democrat administration have done everything they could to undermine the structural integrity of the armory. The utter neglect and failure to conform to the demands of the deed of transfer amount to what we consider official vandalism. This complete lack of recognition of the historical significance of this armory, the refusal to perform the most modest repairs, such as covering openings in the roof, which has been requested to be performed by the veterans and other concerned organizations on numerous occasions, are just one of many other deliberate and officially condoned acts to further desecrate this historically significant building. This in itself shows a total lack of respect for the feelings, memories, and regards our veterans throughout our county have for this unique armory. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Our next three speakers are Elizabeth Gilman, John DeLois, and Moises Valencia.
Good evening, Mayor Bramson and City Council members. My name is Elizabeth Gilman, and I reside...
Ms. Gilman, if you would speak into the microphone,
I reside
please.
in Hartsdale, New York. I am a registered nurse and a healthcare advocate, and I am here tonight in favor of the Veterans Memorial Performing Arts Center to be planned for the Armory. The Veterans Memorial Center for the Performing Arts would honor the soldiers who fought and died in many wars so that our nation could remain a free democracy. The Performing Arts Center would also give the New Rochelle Opera Company, under the direction of Camille Coppola, a home, and at the same time provide a place for our honored veterans to come together in a safe and beautiful environment. Giving the New Rochelle Opera a home can have a very positive impact upon the economic and cultural status of the community because businesses like to locate where cultural enterprises are available, therefore helping the economy to grow. The performing arts increase the image, status, and reputation of the community, which also has an economic impact upon the community in terms of real estate values, because arts and cultural activities make communities more attractive places to live. The presence of the arts creates an improved image of the community. Therefore, home buyers are more likely to buy property they feel is upcoming. Giving the New Rochelle Opera a home can attract tourists who spend money that benefit the community by buying tickets to the opera and other events, eating at local restaurants, shopping at local stores, staying at local hotels. All of this, as you know, has a multiplier effect upon the economy. Lastly, the New Rochelle Opera Company brings high-quality professional opera performance at affordable prices for all of us to enjoy. It also sustains the heritage of Italian opera within the community. It's the performing arts that brings us all together, for there we are on the stage, singing, dancing, enacting the everyday dramas of our lives, but in an idealized form that moves and inspires us all. So let's join hands in unity to make the dream of a Veterans Memorial Performing Arts Center a reality, to honor our veterans and provide a home for the New Rochelle Opera Company. And I leave you with a quote from the Phantom of the Opera. Floating, falling, sweet intoxication, touch me, trust me, savor each sensation. Let the dream begin. Let your darker side give into the power of the music of the night.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. DeLewis.
Good evening. John DeLewis, 41 Pratt Street. They counted some heads about a week and a half ago, and apparently it mattered. And what I don't understand is, thank you. You hear the outcry. Somebody came up with 500 signatures, from staged event that Forest City tried to do. We got 5,000 signatures. We got 5,000 people that don't agree with Echo Bay. It's not against the development itself. It's against the way it's being done. The cronyism, the crony capitalism that's going on, the acceptance of money to garner somebody's wallet and further their political career is not acceptable. To do what's right for New Rochelle is the thing to stand up and do. Now, you've been in bed with Capelli, you've been in bed with Apicella, you've been in bed with Trump, you've been in bed with Forest City. It's time to start sleeping at home nowadays. It's time to come back and see what's going on in the city and get in touch with what's really important for this city. The numbers that are being put out are just fudge. They're not accurate. They don't hold up to scrutiny. People with far more experience at numbers have discounted just about everything that Forest City has proposed. You have some wonderful offers. People from this city are dying to come out and do something good for the city, and yet at every step of the way, it becomes bandished and brandied about as being Tea Party, extremists, or as I like to call them, residents, fellow citizens, and neighbors. These are the people that make up the city. It's the fabric of this city. It's the total population, white, black, Hispanic, Asian. It's the cultural embedment of what makes up this city. Extra apartments are only going to bring people who don't have an investment in the city, who won't really care about what's going on, who aren't necessarily going to shop in and out of the city because you can't provide the retail for them. We've got a flustering downtown that's struggling. We've had decreased revenues. The city is falling apart. The city's in a downward spiral, in a constant state of entropy, and the politics of the day seem to be working against what needs to be done in this city. I commend council for taking a broad step today in putting the discussion off till after the year, till we see how much money we have. It's not enough, but it's an amazing start. It's amazing to see people from both sides of the aisle finally agreeing on something. I ask you to continue the conversation between yourselves and look at what's really important, and to evaluate just how much benefit there might be to the city if you were to stop dealing with Forest City and reopen the bid, and perhaps Forest City will come back with something better, but I think somebody else will give us something even better still. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeLois. Mr. Valencia.
Good evening, Moises Valencia at 3 Colonial Place. The discussion of Echo Bay project has moved beyond the specific merits and demerits of the project. This is a result of the findings of Course of Action's investigative report titled Political Profiteering, How Forest City Enterprises Makes Private Profits at the Expense of America's Taxpayers. The findings of Forest City's unethical business practices leave little doubt as to who this project is designed to benefit. In the report, it asks, are the roughly 78,000 citizens of New Rochelle Forest City's next victim? To answer, I offer a resounding no, we are not. Mayor Bramson, you are specifically mentioned in this report as the recipient of Forest City lobbying. You swore to 220 of us in June that you have never received money from Forest City. We now know that to be a lie. If you or any one of you chooses to side with this unscrupulous developer against the citizens of New Rochelle, you should be man enough to say so. Okay? Do not insult our intelligence by feigning that the project is in our best interest and that you are merely our humble servant. We know that this project has always been in the interest of Forest City. Instead of serving the public, you are serving yourself at the expense of the public. I am aware that some of you attended a leadership seminar today. What the people of New Rochelle need right now are representatives, not leaders. We are not sheep to be herded and sheared. We are fully capable of leading ourselves and deciding the direction of our city. We have seen what your leadership has wrought: economic stagnation and unbearable taxation. The city must now raise the tax levy above the tax cap just to preserve essential services. Why are you raising our taxes but willing to give Forest City 50% off for the next 20 years? This is failed leadership, and we the people of New Rochelle can no longer afford it. And just as a closing statement, you would be better off taking care of the Count Square project that is an economic drain on our city. It has no economic activity going on there whatsoever, and it's a blight on the heart of downtown. That is real downtown, not the city yard. That is not real downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Valencia. Our next three speakers are Amy Hyman, Jay OMara, and Armand Learner.
Amy Hyman, 17 Harding Drive. The Echo Bay project, as presented now, is absolutely a losing deal for New Rochelle and a win-win proposition for Forest City Ratner. Higher taxes for all New Rochelle residents, no tax revenue, and no sales tax revenue from the project. Nothing. Nothing but more parkland adjacent to a 10-story sewage treatment plant and mud flats. This project should be opposed by all independent thinking council members, and a new RFP should go out to develop the original 26 acres. Now that November 5th is behind us, let's see who will step up to the plate and declare their independence by voting no to this losing proposition. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. OMara. Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, the council, My name is Jay OMara. I am no longer a resident of New Rochelle. I moved to Pelham, not because of any other reason than to find a closer community, a better community for my children. I'm here to talk to you about my business. I own Green Team Taxi at New Rochelle train station. I have tried for the last 3 years to provide the best taxi service for every one of you in this room. Every one of you in this room. I am not a taxpayer in New Rochelle, but have generated revenue, net revenue to this city, over $200,000 in 3 years of being at the New Rochelle train station and deciding to open up my taxi business here. This past month, I have started to receive tickets on the roof from my parked cars. I am absolutely outraged by the fact that this has been allowed to continue even after my emails to the proper people that I thought would understand. And most of you know me when you see me out there sweeping the train and making sure that the place is clean, that it's lit, it is safe for everybody here because I am there. I am telling you that because I was a resident for 50 years. And I'm telling you that because we are there, it is a safer, better, cleaner experience at the New Rochelle train station. I also know that for a fact because of the fact I was told that by not only Amtrak, but of course the MTA, who we know has their issues beyond belief. Anyway, my plight is very simple. What I'd like to do is I'd like to give back to the community that I was in, and all of you know me, and I like all of you very much as people. I think that decisions that are being made here are not being thought out. I'm not looking for anything for free. I haven't gotten tickets in 3 years. All of a sudden, there's tickets. My guys parked their cars there. They're paying the meters, and they're taking my car. But I was told, no, make sure you move the cars. I'm sitting here wondering, what are you thinking? I'm down there trying to help you guys out. I'm telling people, don't you dare honk that horn. Lay off that lady. I'm talking to homeless people, making sure they have a place to sit that's not going to bother anybody, and they're safe. I just don't understand why the lack of respect for this gentleman standing before you. I hope that you will reconsider this path. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. OMara. Mr. Learner.
My name is Armand Learner. I reside at 126 Kensington Oval, and I have lived in this city for close to 30 years. I'm here because, according to a news article in the Journal News this Sunday, Forest City expects a $20 million tax abatement over the next 20 years. We've heard that before. We heard that earlier this evening, which, with other expenses assumed by New Rochelle, could equal a net loss to the city of, through 2036, of up to $40 million. That's a lot of money. Hopefully you agree that's a lot of money for a project that over 80% of the local residents, this is down at the waterfront, recently said they didn't want. Have you seen any signs around New Rochelle that say, I'm for Echo Bay? The only signs that I have seen around New Rochelle have a big line through them, which I believe means we don't want Echo Bay. Finally, allowing Echo Bay development to take part of the Armory parking will probably make the development of the Armory by New Rochelle veterans impractical. Our veterans fought to protect us and our country. Without them, many of us might not be here. Over the years, New Rochelle has slowly let the Armory deteriorate. I feel it is time for the city of New Rochelle to do what's right and agree to have our heroic veterans have the armory. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lerner. Our next three speakers are James Ward Gorman, Ashley Ward, and Denise Ward.
Good evening tonight, Council. My name is James Ward Gorman. I reside at 26 Ellington Avenue. I am here tonight to urge my elected representative, Mr. Fertel, to vote against the Echo Bay project as currently stated in the FEIS. And I also agree with the other boat owner gentleman that spoke here before me. I've had my kayak in the kayak rack downtown for the past 3 years, and it's been very reasonable. 2 years ago, me and my buddy scraped some money together, and we bought a boat. We had it downtown in the municipal marina at K-Dock. We were paying, it was 22 feet at the $50 a foot. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me because I wasn't here to speak about that, but we were paying somewhere around $1,800. We got a notice in the mail that it would be raised to $2,300 about this year, so we decided to look somewhere else. That's as a residence fee. We went to Mamaroneck, and as a non-resident in Mamaroneck, we paid $1,600. So we decided to keep our boat there this year instead. And I urge you to just think about those numbers, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Ward.
Good evening. My name is Ashley Ward, 137 Hellendale Drive. Last week, 47% of New Rochelle's voters sent a message to Mayor Bramson. We can't afford you. My advice to the City Council would be to heed that warning. Your constituents are pleading with you to cut off ties with Forest City. How can you possibly find it acceptable to be considering a tax increase when you're about to give Forest City a tax break? Let's put aside taxes for just a moment. A simple Google search will give you all the answers you need as to whether or not you should be in business with Forest City. The headlines are riddled with accusations of corruption and broken promises. Have you been to Ridge Hill lately? I was actually there last night. You know what I saw? An empty apartment building. There were maybe 10 apartments with lights on. 10. And I thought, gee, doesn't really look like there's much going on there. And what are we about to get here in New Rochelle? Another empty apartment building? Minus, of course, the revenue from the stores that they get. Oh, and by the way, Forest City took that apartment building and sold it as quickly as they could, leaving unpaid utility bills and tax bills. Mayor Bramson, during your campaign, you said it was unfair to say that you increased taxes, and then you came back to City Hall and proposed a tax increase immediately. That's disgraceful. All of you need to open your eyes and realize that your constituents are talking to you. They're saying, we elected you, and your voices need to be heard. That doesn't mean you can do whatever you please. It means that your people are coming to you with our concerns, and we deserve a well-thought-out response, not a schoolyard comeback. You shouldn't complain that you're getting too many calls or emails. That's your job. You are elected to be our representatives. If you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. You are not to substitute your judgment for ours. We are the taxpayers. And as we all learned last Tuesday, democracy is very much about counting our heads.
Ms. Ward?
Good evening. My name is Denise Ward. I also live at 137 Hillendale Drive. Mr. Bramson, in particular, I direct your attention to your own campaign filings and the provisions of the state and federal finance laws and the perjury provisions with regard to false filings. Taxes. Taxes, taxes, taxes. The taxpayers of Westchester County sent a message last week. High taxes are a priority, and ending high taxes are a priority. Did our council not get the message? Did they not get the memo? Did our mayor not get the message? Can't see how. The message was very specifically directed to him. But nevertheless, a budget which proposes busting the state-imposed tax cap, a cap designed to protect taxpayers from excessive tax increases, is outrageous. A proposal to impose a fire hydrant fee to more fairly allocate the cost of fire hydrant services amongst those currently not paying for them now, tax-exempt entities like schools, colleges, and religious institutions, is only fair if there's an absolute agreement by the council to commensurately lower the city tax bill. We already played this bait-and-switch game in New Rochelle with the library tax. We took it out of the city budget without lowering the city budget by $1. So now we get to pay those same dollars in the city budget, and we get to pay for the library tax again. The concept of it's only a few $100s per residence is absurd. A few $100 here, a few $100 there, a few $100 from the school board, a few $100 from the library board. It's us, the people on the other side of that council table, that pay that bill. We are the ones that are eking out the $100 here and there. It matters to us. My request to the city council, you better go back and sharpen your pencils. Really hard. Stop spending money on things that are wasteful. Why are we doing wasteful expenditures? Why are we paying for training programs? Let the employer train them. I'm an employer. I train people all the time. So I lose $2,000, $3,000. I lose a couple of weeks' salary training people. That's what employers have to do. It's the cost of doing business. Why do we have to do that as a city? Why do we have to pay for a sustainability director to tell us to turn off the lights? This is ridiculous. $38,000 here, $30,000 here. And now to the most egregious use of my tax dollars, Echo Bay. In what universe is it not a breach of your fiduciary duty to me and the other taxpayers to agree to underwrite the profits of a private developer? There are no other interpretations of Echo Bay deal with Forest City Ratner, none. The city is agreeing to provide abatements for profit to the Forest City shareholders. Absolutely not, no way, no how. Be guided accordingly. We are watching, we're not happy. Mr. Bramson was sent home for his misguided message. We will do the same to this council if they choose to mind their own agenda and not mind what the people are saying. Do what's best for the taxpayers and not yourselves.
Thank you, Ms. Ward. Our next three speakers are Stephen Mayo, Jeffrey Hasty, and Dimitri Kakin.
Good evening, folks. My name is... Wrong one. Whoops. Should know by now. Steve Mayo, 237 Winding Brook Road, New Rochelle, New York. The Echo Bay project is a grand hoax. It seems nothing but a bunch of pseudo-capitalistic economic lipstick on a corporate welfare pig. This hoax promises untold future costs on citizens yet unborn, legacy costs on an until now unsuspecting, uninformed, and underinformed taxpaying public. But I do believe the tide is changing. The tipping point is being approached as more and more residents, both environmentally aggrieved South End tract holders and renters and economically aggrieved North Enders, are learning the facts. As they learn more of the facts, learn more of the Echo Bay facts on the website, on WVOX, on Journal News, and the New York Times, they will raise voice against this hoax. Last week's electoral results were, to me, the opening salvo. I think we should all expect more victories for an awakened electorate and more crushing defeats for a disconnected and an effete ruling elite. Your arrogance has done the impossible. It has united New Rochelle's North End and South End in a manner unseen in a lifetime. And I honestly believe no amount of name-calling accusations of imagined so-called Tea Party plotting will stop it. Your arrogance has awakened the sleeping giant of New Rochelle citizens' civic involvement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayo. Mr. Hasty.
Good evening to the council. My name is Jeffrey Hasty. I live at 254 Beachmont Drive.
I am a member of United Citizens for a Better New Rochelle. We held a rally earlier this evening. Thank you for attending. During the campaign for county executive, we were accused of being a partisan group. We are not a partisan group. We've been against Echo Bay from day one. We are still against Echo Bay, and we are still here, and we're still fighting against Echo Bay. So it had nothing to do with the county executive race at all. And we put out a press release to show that members of our committee actually gave money to Noam for his campaign. So again, it was not about the county executive race at all. And we are in favor of development. We're in favor of affordable housing. We're just not in favor of this development. This is a project that is ill-conceived, financially devoid of any compensation to the citizens of New Rochelle, and it should not be going forward. And we have said from the outset that this project should be rebid, and it needs to be rebid, period. We'd like to see development there, but just not this project. We have had up on our website, echobayfacts.com, for 4 or 5 months now, all the data and information about Echo Bay. To date, we have not had a response from that. What we have had is homilies about, oh, something's better than nothing. Well, I guess a strip club probably better than nothing too, wouldn't it? What we're saying is we've got these numbers up here. We have yet to hear response back. So we are challenging the United Citizens for Better New Rochelle. Would like to have a debate with the city council members that are in support of it. And let's talk about the pluses and minuses. And we don't want to debate Forest City, because Forest City has a financial benefit for this. So we want to debate the folks that are representing us. So we're challenging you to a debate, and hope that you'll accept that. Also, just wanted to let you know that, as far as our organization is concerned, we are considering, if the City Council decides to go forward with this, we are considering legal action based on Article 78 for your fiduciary responsibility. When the project was bid, it was bid out for a 26-acre project. You selected Forest City. 6 years later, it's a 9-acre project. The other 10 people did not get the opportunity to bid on a 9-acre project, so you did not do your fiduciary responsibility from that perspective. In addition, you gave them a memorandum of understanding for the 6 years. For 6 years, that they had no compensation. And I know what you're going to say is they paid $75,000. That was one time up front for the 6 years. I've worked in real estate development. If you have exclusive rights to a property, you pay every single year for that right. All right, so you gave them free access to a property. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Kakin.
Mr. Mayor, City Council members. So my name is Dimitri Kakin. I live at 203 Robert Drive in New Rochelle. I have 2 children in New Rochelle Public Schools, and I've lived in New Rochelle since 2000. My family came to this country about 25 years ago, and one of the reasons being is that freedom of expression. And I'm here to express my opinion, and this is the thing that I don't take for granted. A lot of people voice their concerns about Echo Bay. Everybody tonight voiced their concerns against Echo Bay. I'm not going to go over the same items that have been covered already, but if you look at the history of Forest City, they're there to make profit. I'm not against private institutions making profit. But you are the board of directors of this municipality. You're supposed to represent interests of your stakeholders. Your stakeholders are citizens of New Rochelle. I'm the member of United Citizens of New Rochelle. I got involved in this subject, not because of politics, because even though I'm a registered Republican, I'm very liberal when it comes to a lot of social issues, but I'm very conservative when it comes to fiscal issues, because this is, numbers don't lie. And when I looked at it in March of this year, I saw a huge black hole staring at me. It was as simple as that. Look at Forest City history. Brooklyn Navy Yard. Albuquerque, where they receive material subsidies and already flipping the property. New Rochelle is another example of switch and bait. It's like going to a pizza store, paying $20 to get a whole pie. An hour later, not only that the service was bad, but instead of getting a pizza pie, you're getting a slice of pizza and you still have to pay the same $20. How would you and your family react to that? It doesn't make any sense. We were promised this much, our costs are this much, now we're getting this much, and our costs are still the same. How can anybody, there is a representative of Forest City, I believe, sitting right there in the left aisle. He will come here and spin this thing until there is no tomorrow. That this is the best project since sliced bread. Garbage in, garbage out. I'm in a financial business. I can put any model you want to show the point that I want to show, okay? It's just bogus. We've analyzed this number 6 days to Sunday. It doesn't make any sense. So what I ask you today is, and I applaud to the council decision today to delay the vote, to delay any discussions. But what I ask you today is wake up. People vote with their wallets, and they have. And this is just the beginning. And again, it's not about politics. We have people who are Republicans. We have people who are Democrats. We have people of all colors, of races, of all education. It's all about numbers. Numbers don't lie.
Thank you, Mr. Kakin. Our next three speakers are Howard Stevens, Daniel Bases, and Rosemary Spillane.
Howard Stevens, 421 Grand Boulevard. First, I'd like to say I applaud the City Council, or at least some members of the City Council, for their vote this evening to table discussions on Echo Bay. I think it shows some of you are listening to your constituents. Despite all the opposition from New Rochelle residents, Forest City hasn't backed down, though. If anything, they've stepped up their heavy-handed tactics over the last few weeks. They've dispatched their minions into New Rochelle to promote their petition. They've spent tens of thousands of dollars to distribute postcards to influence public opinion, and they've contributed thousands and thousands of dollars to campaigns of our elected officials. If anything, I applaud their efforts. They're a for-profit company. They have shareholders to answer to. Hell, if my salary was dependent upon putting this project through, and my bonus was based on how much profit I could squeeze out of this deal, I'd be doing the same exact thing. That's how capitalism works. And Forest City's pretty good at it, too. Since they've scaled back their plans at Echo Bay due to adverse economic conditions, their stock price has nearly doubled. They're definitely doing right by their shareholders. But our elected officials, you, our mayor, our city council, you don't answer to Forest City's shareholders. You answer to us, your constituents. And that's how democracy works. And if there's one thing we can take away from last week's election, is that the voters are paying attention. And there may only be 50, 60 people in this room, but obviously a lot more people are paying attention. So we know the numbers don't add up, and we know that we can't afford another tax hike that pads the pockets of corporate developers. We know that this project is not what New Rochelle needs, and we know that Forest City is pushing hard to get it done. But we don't blame Forest City. We blame our own city council, the members of you who keep voting for this project. You're allowing this to happen. You say that we should be happy that any deal is better than no deal, that something is better than nothing. Well, I disagree. I don't think it's too much to ask to abide by our original goals, that making New Rochelle a desirable destination, enhancing our image as a waterfront community, and expanding our tax base and improving our quality of life. Even if this project were not such an economic disaster for New Rochelle, the currently proposed project would still not be worth doing. I ask that the City Council turn down this proposal once and for all and put the Echo Bay project out for rebid. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Mr. Bases.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Daniel Bases. I reside at 31 Chatham Road in New Rochelle. This is the first time I've ever come to the Council to speak. I'm a lifelong New Rochelle resident. I moved away to go to university, and when I was young, I lived in the city, but when I had a chance to come back to the United States from an overseas posting, I chose New Rochelle for the schools that you and I went to, Mr. Mayor. I spent my life thinking about moving back to New Rochelle, and I've also spent my life as a journalist, and I'm here tonight as a private citizen, seeking truth. But in seeking truth, it's also seeking rational thought. To have a deal, just to have a deal, is short-sighted. And that's not rational thought. It's just expediency because you want to achieve something, and it's at our expense. So whether you're at the east end of the city, the west end of the city, the north end, or the south end, we're all affected by this deal. This deal stinks. From the financing standpoint, from the mud flats that are there half the day, from the waste treatment plant that towers over it. so I don't want to hear talk about a luxury development. You and I spoke at a Wilmot Woods meeting earlier this year, and I saw that you and Councilwoman Rackman were there. And to be honest with you, I was kind of surprised because I felt like you were doing the bidding of Forest City. And I felt like you were stumping for them rather than trying to explain to us why this was the best deal. So I'm asking you, you've heard this, and this is not the first night to discuss Forest City and the Echo Bay deal. And we've heard a lot of details. But I want to know, when did you become so tone deaf to what your citizens are asking you for, which is to have something that is inspiring? Because building an apartment building, half of which won't give any views to the residents of the water, they won't have a view, it won't give any view or access that's usable in any good sense of the term to the residents of New Rochelle. There's very little benefit to anybody who doesn't live there, and I would say that the people that do live there will have a limited benefit, the way that this deal is structured. And certainly, our schools are tight, our services are stretched. This doesn't enhance us. So I ask you, is this really the best that we can do? Because we should be about inspiring our citizens to have the best place to live, a place that's a destination where people are going to spend money. So just be careful, because when it comes voting time, this is the indictment that you'll bring upon yourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Basis. Ms. Spillane.
Good evening. Rosemary Spillane, 26 Woodbury Street, New Rochelle. I'd like to just say it's all been said. It's all been said before. It's all been said tonight. And I'd like to speak to the council people, Mr. Trangucci, Mr. Tarantino, Mr. Rice, Mr. Hayden, Mr. Fertel, Ms. Rackman. You are the ones up there who must make this decision. If you're really honest about it, it's no good. And I urge you, please, to follow the money. In moving the city yard, well, those of you who have businesses should know this. The rest of you who are lawyers should also know this. You got to pay your bills. We are so badly in debt now, and you're bonding out more, and you can't put the city yard where you want to. You got to go buy more land and develop more buildings. It's too much. We can't keep adding on our bonded debt. We're going to go bankrupt. And as it's been said here, the citizens are tired of spending money needlessly and foolishly. Echo Bay is not the kind of project that should be there, what's proposed, that should be there. Let's start again. Leave the city yard for a couple of years. Let's rethink this whole thing. But you have property next to it within the Armory. That can be developed. It can work. It's got people that want to be in there. It's got people that are willing to work and help us develop it. It can be, as I said a few years ago, a crown, a jewel in our crown. Our crown is just about empty of all the jewels. We've torn down everything in New Rochelle of historic significance. Let's not lose the Armory. Let's put us back on the map. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Spillane. Our next three speakers are Christine Vuxenage, Erin Johnston, and Tim Best.
Good evening, Mayor Bramson and council members. I'd like to begin by thanking you for tabling the vote on the Echo Bay project to January. I think that was very courageous of you to do so. I've been here since approximately 5 o'clock this afternoon. I know you were all in council, you've been here too, and you're tired. But we were cold outside. We were cold outside and standing out there because we strongly believe in something. And I'm not going to reiterate what all the good people in this room have said before. I am against Echo Bay, and you know that. I am not against development, however. Mayor Bramson, you and I emailed back and forth personally about this some time ago. And you told me that you had heard from several people that they were in favor of this project. But I have to ask you, why aren't they here? The people are speaking to you. Please be courageous enough to listen. You know you can do better for this city, so why aren't we doing it? I also want to speak to you about the Armory. I'm the type of girl that when she gets cut, she bleeds red, white, and blue. I get emotional when I hear the veterans get up here and speak to you about their beloved Armory. From Mr. Parenti, who stood outside with the flag, to the other members of the Marine Corps, to the other veterans in this room, to the veterans who have fought for my freedom to get up here and speak tonight. For my father-in-law, who brought his family here from a communist country after watching his father get shot in the head for speaking out, and brought his family to New Rochelle to raise his children and pay his taxes here. I ask you to respect the veterans. I ask you to respect the monument that sits in this city to them. I ask you to consider the fact that it would be a wonderful civic center for us. It would be, as somebody said, a jewel in our crown. And I really like the ladies who got up from the opera. I know they're not here anymore, but I'm raising an operatic singer, and I'd like her to have a venue. Now, I'm going to put on my attorney hat for the 50-some-odd seconds that I still have left and read to you from the deed, okay? This is the deed from the state of New York to the people of New Rochelle regarding the Armory. I'm reading the restrictive covenant. This grant is made and accepted upon the condition that said premises shall be improved and maintained for park, recreation, street, and highway purposes, including incidental necessary municipal business in conjunction therewith. In the event that said premises are not improved and maintained for park, recreation, street, and highway purposes, including incidental necessary municipal business in conjunction therewith, the title hereby conveyed shall revert to the people of the state of New York, and the Attorney General may institute an action in the Supreme Court for a judgment declaring a revesting of such title in the state. Let's keep the Armory as is. Let's redevelop it. I'm here for the veterans. I'm against Echo Bay. Thank you very much, and have a good night.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Johnston.
Hi, my name is Erin Johnston. I live at 196 Hamilton Avenue in New Rochelle. I'm a lifelong resident of New Rochelle. I grew up in New Rochelle. I went to school in New Rochelle. I'm raising my children in New Rochelle. My daughters are adults and voters in New Rochelle. 3 of them, actually. So we are a family of 5 voters in New Rochelle. And I have to let you know that this is the first time coming up and speaking about this. The groundswell that you may not be aware of is growing. It is growing and growing. People are upset that decisions are being made without consideration of the citizens of New Rochelle who are opposed to this, okay? It's all going to happen in the next year if you guys don't take a step back and think about what's happening. We don't need this development from Forest City. We need smart development. People go everywhere else in Westchester when they want to go somewhere. They go to Mamaroneck when they want to stroll on the avenue, go to the waterfront, go out to dinner. They go to Portchester when they want to go to the movies because they can go to so many restaurants in Portchester. They go to Yonkers to go to the restaurants on the water because it's a great destination. This Forest City development is a cleaners, it's a deli where someone goes to get a cup of coffee and picks up their shirt. No one's going to come and spend money. It's not what we need in New Rochelle. Okay? Thank you. I strongly urge all of you to really think about this. This was why you were elected. You were elected to represent the citizens of New Rochelle. And I just want to say to everybody that's here, there are so many eloquent speakers here. There are so many smart people here. I am just so impressed at the thoughtful nature of what people have said. And this is not a partisan thing. This is really about just being citizens of New Rochelle, okay? Not Democratic, not Republican, not whatever, just citizens of New Rochelle. Politics has nothing to do with this. You are a community. You have to act within the community, okay? And speak to the people that live in the community and listen to them. Listen to them, because they're going to speak even louder if you do go ahead with this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Best.
Hi, I'm Tim Best. I live in Larchmont Woods, 60 Ridge Road. I am not a lifetime resident of this city. I actually moved here about 10 years ago. I came from Virginia, where I paid about $2,800 a year in my taxes. So it was a big jump to come up to this area. But we looked around the entire Westchester area, wanted to take the Metro North into Grand Central. We chose New Rochelle for a number of reasons. One, we really welcome the diversity of this city. Number two is, in looking at the tax basis at the time that we bought the house, we actually saw something where it was relatively reasonable because of the businesses that were here. At the time, I was paying $10,000. Fast forward 10 years, I'm over $22,000. What I think was most overwhelming was the year, I think a year or so ago, where I was told that the taxes were not going to go up and that it was capped. And yet I saw my city taxes go up by about 9.2%. And when I came here to ask them why, if the taxes were leveled, why I had an increase. Oh, because that's the garbage and tax. I mean, that's the garbage and disposal group, which at the end of the day, to me, is a tax. It's all being taxed at one point. But my point now is not to really talk about that. I don't represent a party. I represent my family. And Noam, you actually came to my neighborhood for a block party. That's where I met you. I met your family. And I said, wow, as a new person to this area, you seem like a young, energetic guy who's here to help support and serve the community well. And so I voted for you for the mayoral election. But I got to say, I'm not the brightest guy. I didn't go to Ivy League schools, but I can look at some basics around the finances around this deal. I came from a blue-collar town in Pennsylvania. We never, ever used a credit card. We didn't put things on loan to hopefully get through the next time. We paid our bills every time. And what I worry about most is what I see nationally, and now I see it coming to New Rochelle, and that is that your concern for the next election and your concern for the benefit for you is much greater than all of us who every day are trying to bust our chops to make a living, to pay our bills, and we want a better New Rochelle. I have to say, moving here and being here 10 years, my wife and I have taught plenty of times to move and go somewhere else. But we have fallen in love with the diversity of this community. But I'll tell you, every year you push us further and further to say, maybe we should go. I will say this, I didn't vote for you last week.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Best. Mr. Clerk, are there additional cards on the table? There are no additional registered speakers who have signed cards. Does anyone else wish to speak before I call the hearing to a close? Hearing none, I will call the hearing to a close. I certainly do thank all those who offered comments this evening. The City Council has a couple of items that we could discuss in the Council conference room, but everyone who wishes to excuse themselves may certainly do so at this time.